Okay, everybody. Trying out a couple of different tweaks in my Ecamm Live setup today. Always playing with things to see if I can get things working the way that I expect. But yeah, let me know how things sound, how things look, if everything's working out okay. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing today, I need to get a bunch of new Tailwind UI components built, and Steve designed a crap ton of nav bars for marketing sites. So we have a bunch of nav bars for like applications, like in-app navs, but we didn't have marketing stuff. And the marketing ones are kind of interesting because you usually do some more kind of fancy stuff, right? You might have like this sort of thing where you like click a drop down and it opens like a whole full width panel with a bunch of features and weird stuff like that. And we also have like some more simpler drop downs and stuff. And the idea is I'm going to build these navs, build these flyouts, and we're going to release these navs as part of Tailwind UI with like the example flyouts in them. And then we're also going to grab the flyouts and sort of extract them into separate components so you can just sort of swap them out as you like. So I haven't planned this at all. I'm just going to be kind of working live, figuring it out as I go. So yeah, well, I guess we'll just see what happens. Okay, so I think probably what we'll do to start is maybe just build this first one, because it's kind of a good base version. You know, it's fairly simple, but still has some interesting pieces to it. So let's throw Figma over on the right here. I'm using a slightly bigger screen resolution than I normally do for streaming because I found that Figma doesn't fit at exactly 50% of my screen when I'm in the lowest resolution, and that's really frustrating when you're trying to go back and forth between stuff. So we're going to try and use this 1920 by 1080 resolution for now, and hopefully we can make it through. All right, so let's create a component and get started. So I think I'm just going to grab maybe like, I don't know, something that doesn't have a lot of markup in it. Like we'll just grab this and use this to start. So we'll call this like nav bars. Maybe we'll call it marketing nav bars because I don't want to run into naming conflicts. I don't think our code is accounting for that currently. And I guess we'll just call this one, I usually name it kind of based on the desktop layout. So why don't we just call this one like simple, what am I doing here? Duplicate, marketing, nav bars. We'll call it like simple links on left or something like that. All right, so we'll close other editors here. And simple links on left, we'll say sections. Where are these going to go? If you look at Tailwind UI, where do we have nav bars? We call them headers. Okay, so let's rename this. We'll call this like marketing headers. We probably could call it nav bar, but whatever. Simple links on left, I think that's still fine. What? Don't save. Okay, marketing headers, simple links on left. Simple links on left. And we're going to put this in, I think if we look at like banners, they're in elements banners. We've got elements banners, so we'll do elements headers here. And with any luck in my workbench here, we should see, yeah, now we got this. This is kind of this little really simple, janky little area I built that just works in development mode, where I can just pull up a full screen version of a component and kind of build it with live reload. And it just reads directly from the file system to grab all this stuff. Then in production, we kind of bundle everything up into a SQLite database, and we just version control that and deploy it, which has been nice. Okay, so let's start with the mobile version. So first thing we'll do is we'll pop open the DevTools here and just kind of get this into mobile mode. Where's 375? This is kind of where I like to start. And we'll just kind of design this. Okay, so it looks like we've got our logo here, and yeah, so let's just start by getting some markup in place. So we're going to have like a div for the whole thing. We'll do a div for kind of the container area, then like a div for the left and a div for the right. And in this section, we're going to have like the logo. So if we look at like some of the other components, like maybe the heroes, you can see we have a bunch of logos already pre-built. This is workflow mark. Okay. So maybe we'll just keep that open to reference for certain things. So we'll just say workflow. And then we need to get this like hamburger icon. So someone in the community put together this cool little heroicons.dev browser for grabbing the Heroicons icons, which has been pretty handy for me because it's faster than grabbing it from the file system. We want to build something like this at some point too, that we can kind of commit to maintaining ourselves. But this guy did an awesome job so far. So been leveraging this a lot. So let's just grab the class attribute here. It's one thing that's a bit of a bummer is the class attribute ends up kind of mixed in. It'd be nice if that was just right at the front. So yeah, we'll format, doesn't work. Let's put this on. Actually, what am I doing? I'm not even thinking straight here. In these cases, I can just go icon name equals MD. What do we call that? Menu? Yeah, I'm being silly. We already have a simple solution for this. So these are designed to be 24 pixels. So if Steve is doing his job right, this should be 24 by 24. It looks like it's gray 400. So we'll do that on the parent. We'll just say text gray 400 on the button. And let's see. Yeah, so we're kind of getting something, right? So let's get things in place here. So we got 16 pixels of padding on the left, 24 pixels on the top. Same thing over here. Steve has gotten really good at giving me these perfect designs. We used to do things a lot rougher and kind of just figure it out together in the browser. But with Town UI, like, it's really important that everything's really consistent. So if he gives me something that's 14 pixels and I have to make a judgment call between 12 or 16, it's easy for me to make the wrong decision and to end up with inconsistencies. So we've been trying to be more strict about that to keep this stuff clean, and it's worked out pretty good. Okay, so let's do that here. So we're going to do px for py6. And we're going to do some flexbox stuff. So let's just say this will be flex, justify between, items center. Okay, and that seems like more than I was expecting. Oh, there's like a little there's a little back button here that I used to quickly get back to the workbench, but that looks really stupid here. So let's delete that. I don't need that. Okay. Now this still seems taller than I thought. 24 and 16. Yeah, I guess that's probably right. All right, that's fine. So we have a mobile version to build. So I guess we'll just start with the mobile version. So let's think, how do we want this positioned? So this is positioned 8 pixels from the edges of everything. So I think what we'll do is make this parent container relative. Trying to think, like, if you opened it here, what would happen? It probably wouldn't be full width. It would probably stay off to the right, maybe. Steve didn't design that, did he? No. Well, Steve, if you're watching and you feel like opening this file and giving me some insight on how you want this menu to work at this size, I'd be interested to see. I don't know if you want it to be full width or not. Because again, this size is going to persist all the way up to 767. So we probably want to be smart about that. And especially since the logo is duplicated, it'd be kind of weird if it only sat over here and had the logo there and there. So yeah, let's think about it. All right, so position relative on this thing. We will do a... I think we'll just have the menu open directly from the button. Let me look at the heroes, because we did this on the heroes too, and I'm curious to see how I decided to do it. So we have like a button here, open equals false. Here's the menu. So you put the menu kind of like earlier in the DOM, which is surprising to me. Let's look at this simple centered hero for a second. Kind of just getting back into the groove here, remembering what we did. So yeah, so it does look like we... So this is hidden by default. That's the background patterns that you see here. And then we've got... Yeah. I'm a little surprised that I built that in a way where I put the... I put this element before this element. Or maybe I didn't. No, I didn't. Okay. That makes more sense. That it comes after it. Okay. All right. Okay. So, since our goal generally is to make these menus like kind of interchangeable, what I'll usually do is I'll build this kind of outside of the actual nav. So you can see here, like this is where I had the button and all that stuff in the other menu, and then I have this div that's like a sibling to the whole thing. The only thing they share is this kind of like one common ancestor, and I think probably that's what I want to do here too. So I'm going to build this whole flyout menu down here. So let's take a look at this and figure it out. So I'm going to have an image. I never did look to see if we got the size right on this logo, by the way. 35. So that's kind of close. So it's a little bit smaller than... All right. So that's one discrepancy, is this logo is a little kind of a different size, but maybe not. Let me think. 32. Yeah, so that's... Or is that the width? Yeah, it's 35 wide. Okay, so that's probably actually fine, because 31.82. So that's pretty close. That'll do. All right. So we got another instance of the logo. We're going to have another button up here. This is going to be, I think it's just MDX. No? MD close? Yeah, okay. And we're going to do the same sort of thing. So let's wrap this in a div. Flex, items center. And someone asked why duplication. We're not really duplicating anything. This is like a totally separate element, right? You can imagine wanting to change this without wanting to change this. So it doesn't make sense to reuse these elements and somehow lift them into this card, in my opinion. So let's just get some of this other stuff in here. So we're going to have like we're going to have justify between here. We're going to have to think through how we want to do the padding and stuff. We'll figure it out though. So I'm going to have a div here. Probably this will be like a nav with a bunch of links that go to nowhere. And inside each one, we're going to have what's the best way to build these square icons? Lots of different ways we could do it, right? But I kind of just want to see like what exactly have I already done. So what I ended up doing for here is I did like a div with specific size and then threw the other stuff inside of it. So I'm just going to grab this as a starting point and we'll just drop the icon inside of it. Let's make sure this is block. Okay. And we'll just replace this with like a different icon. I don't know if I have every icon that Steve has made by name. I should in theory. I guess I can probably just look here and see like graph, bar, chart. Let's look at the icons folder. It's going to be like MD bar chart. It's probably got to be that one. Okay. Let's see. What do we get? That is not the same bar chart. Where is this icon, Steve? What am I doing? Does he have it in here? Or did he draw one but hasn't released it yet? Because that sometimes happens too. Oh, these icons are a different color in this image. Yikes. Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof. All right. Well, I guess we'll just go grab these icons and grab it manually from somewhere. Let's see. Has he? This is it right here. Copy as SVG. What did he name it? Chart bar. Seems fine. Duplicate. Probably he wants to rename the other one, so it's like chart bar alt, something like that, you know. So we'll just minify this SVG and format it, and then get rid of this. Go fill current, or fill none. Stroke. Current color. Get rid of this, and I mean that should be okay. So now if we do a chart bar, oops. All right. Does that look like roughly the same size and stuff? I think so. Okay, so let's just get like a couple of these kind of generally in here. And get maybe the general styling on these right, and then we'll slam them in like a card and get that positioning right. So just to be sure, we've got 24, that's right. This is 48, that's right. Rounded 6 pixels, that's right. We've got a gap of 16 pixels here. So I'm going to use the new SpaceX utilities for that. And I guess we'll just make this a flex items center. And let's do flex shrink 0 on this so that we don't ever have a mishap with that. And then we've got 16 pixels, that's the default. Line height 24, that's the default. So we're going to want to do font medium, text grade 900. He's got letter spacing on this. That's probably an accident, so I'm going to ignore that. Okay. So let's just grab a few of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I wonder what this engagement one is called. Cursor click. So now we'll discover if I actually have that file or not. Okay, I do. And then we've got a shield of some kind. So that's shield check. And, oh, we don't have shield check by the looks of it. So I'll just grab from here and we'll duplicate this and call it MD shield check. And just paste it in, get rid of the class attribute so we can control that ourselves. And yeah, okay, so we should get the shield check going now. And integrations. I wonder, Steve might have literally called it that. Box. I guess we'll just scroll and look through it. It also might be like another icon that he hasn't actually added to the set yet. No, so this is a new one too. So we'll just find it ourselves. Anybody see it? There it is. Copies SVG. What did he call it? He called it view grid. I wonder if that's what he actually wants it to be called, or if he copy and pasted it from something. All right, that's okay. Minify, format. Oops. I overwrote the... Minify, format. Fill none, stroke, current color. Okay, shield check. This is going to be view grid. Interesting name you got there, Stevie. And then we've got refresh. What do you think? Think we've got that? Think I can get that right on a guess? Nope. Is it called refresh? It is called refresh, but I guess we just don't have refresh. So I need to come up with a better system for these icons, by the way. Like, as with everything, it starts as like, okay, I'm just going to paste them in all inline, and then we make it slightly better, and then we actually go and release the icons. And I've been doing all this work way before we release the icons, and now there's like a real library that I could be pulling in, but instead I'm just maintaining this copy in this disgusting icons folder. So one day I'd like to migrate this to like pull in the package from GitHub, like via npm or something, and have it as like a source of truth, because this is a disaster and this is taking too long to grab all these icons. Okay, reports. Report, document report. Okay. Probably I'm going to have to do the same thing for this. So we'll call this document report. Hopefully after this, though, Steve just like reused all these icons for all the other ones, I'm sure. So we won't have to do all this boring work again. View grid. All right. Okay, so whatever. We're getting there. Let's go and kind of name all these links. Let's get rid of the sidebar so we got some more room. This 1080 resolution is pretty workable. How is it for people watching the stream? Is everything like way too small, or is it pretty decent? It's nice for me because I can very easily work at this resolution for what I'm doing. But I want to make sure that's readable for everyone too. Worst case scenario, I can always like bump up the font size a little bit, but yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so there's that. Let's do like the footer separately. So before we get the footer done, let's just try and get this in like a card. So we've got a card. It's got like Shadow LG on it, and also our Shadow XS by the looks of it. So this is kind of like going to be a wrapper for everything. This is kind of like a header. So I think we're going to need like at least one more div here. So let's start by just, we'll do absolute on this, px2 pt2. We might just be able to get away with P2. I'm trying to think if we should account for the bottom padding or if that doesn't matter. And we're going to go inset x0, top 0, inset x0, I think. All right. And this is going to be the card. So this is going to be like rounded LG. And it's going to have a shadow. Now we're going to need two of these because of the double shadow trick. So we'll do shadow LG, rounded LG, shadow XS. So we can stack the shadows a little bit. And then this one we'll do a BG white. All right, so we're getting there. Now we just got to kind of get the inner padding right. So this is like 20, 20, 20. So the top one is definitely going to be 20 pixels of padding. What do we got between here and here? 32. Okay, so I think for what we're doing right here, we can probably do something like PT5, PB8, PX5. Okay, so there's our padding. And now we'll do kind of some spacing stuff. So the distance between this is like 32-ish. So I'm going to say we want to do space Y8 on this to kind of space out this chunk and this chunk. And then for all these elements, they're 32 apart as well. So inside this nav, we're going to go space Y8 too. All right, and then we got all that spacing handled. And then we've got a divider between these. So let's figure that out. I think we might have to, okay, yeah, we made a bit of a boo-boo here. We're going to need yet another div. Forgive me. HTML old guard. But here is where we're going to want to do, is this white down everywhere? It's white across the board. So we're going to want to move this padding and this spacing into this div for this kind of upper half. And then at the end of this, we're going to have like the bottom half. And this is 32, 32. So this is going to be classes PY8, PX5. And let's think about how we want to lay these out. I guess we could just do CSS grid for that. So let's do a grid with 2 columns. And we'll just put a bunch of links in there, I guess. Pricing. So let's just get the styles for this right, and then we'll duplicate it, and we'll add some grid gap and stuff. This is going to be font, medium, text, gray, 900. Let's be explicit about the font size, and maybe we'll do that for all these too. I never know when people are going to, when it'll matter, you know, but I think it's kind of nice to be able to see that it's deliberate and not just like depending on the fact that it is conveniently the same. So I don't know if Steve designed hover or focus styles for this. For a mobile view, it's not really that important, right? Because on mobile, there is no such thing as hover or focus. not for links anyways. You can obviously focus on input, but actually for links, I think we decided to just use the default browser focus style, but for hover, not sure. Maybe just nothing. Maybe that's the idea. Okay, so is that in the right spot? Yeah. So it seems fine. So we'll just do pricing, docs, enterprise blog, help center, guides, security events. Docs, enterprise blog, help center, guides, security events. Apologies to whatever company we probably stole all of these links from when we were trying to just look at examples and figure out what content do people put in these things. Okay, so we got a row gap of 32, and then this gap is probably just up to my discretion. So let's say row gap 8, and then maybe we'll do like a call gap of 4, and I can kind of show you why that matters. So say we had like a longer one, like help center of awesome. You can see that wraps. So we need to have some sort of gap here, right? Between them horizontally. Otherwise, if this was call gap 0, then eventually we're going to get to a spot where it just goes like right next to it, which doesn't look good. So we could probably get away with like not a lot, you know? You kind of have to fiddle with it to kind of see, okay, like, is that too close? Probably it is. So let's just go with 4. And yeah. Okay. All right, so that's good. And then we've got a button at the bottom, a 42 pixel tall button. So let me look at our Tailwind UI buttons and see if that matches one. Is that this button maybe? Yeah, perfect. Okay. So we'll just grab the second last button here. And yes, we got this grid. Then after the grid, we're going to have another div. That div is going to have the sign up button and then the text underneath it. So I'm going to put the button in a div because I don't like putting elements that are not meant to be block level just kind of like on their own. Although I guess with a button, it's not that big of a deal. Like we could just make it a block level button. Okay, let's simplify the markup and we'll do it that way. All right, existing customer. Save that. Sign in. So we'll make this span, we'll make it a flex span instead of an inline flex span. And let's do width full, just to be explicit. And I guess we're going to want to do justify center on this to get the text centered. Now, okay, that's 600. This is indigo 500. Okay, so that's right. So we'll just do sign up. And I guess this is just going to be a link to. It's not really a button. It looks like a button, but it's not a button. I'm using the Tailwind IntelliSense plugin. So it shows you like all this stuff. It's pretty cool. If you just go to Tailwind CSS IntelliSense, second stop like not working. It does work. It's great. Here it is, made by Brad. Good dude. Real popular. It's got lots of useful features, and I think he's got plans to add a lot of other cool stuff too. So definitely recommend that. Okay, so the next thing is this stuff. So for this p tag, I guess we're gonna say text gray 500. We'll do text base letting 6, And then for the link, oh, I guess we got font medium on this too. It looks like the link is just the same, just a different color. So that's easy. Text gray 900. Okay, so I think it's just kind of jammed together here. So first, let's get the spacing right on this. So between this grid and here, we've got 32 again. So let's just jump up here and we'll space this out. Space Y8, just to kind of move those. Yeah, and then between here and here, we've got 24. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Space Y6. And let's do text center on this. Yeah, there we go. It's really nice using these new space utilities that were just added to Tailwind this week. I basically like never have to do manual stupid margins ever anymore. I just kind of get to say at the parent level, okay, this is the gap between things. It's nice and declarative. We also added these divide utilities that we're going to use next here. So you can see we've got a 2 pixel border between these items. That's gray 50, like a really light 2 pixel border. So to add that, we're just going to find the common ancestor, which is here. We're going to say divide Y2, divide gray 50. There we go. Now we've got the divider between them. And the cool thing about this is, say like we added like another section, or say we did something like, say we duplicated this and like moved it into its own section. Now you can see like we automatically get dividers between everything, right? We don't have to like manually add the borders to each one. So again, it's just like a cool sort of declarative way of specifying this stuff. All right, so that looks pretty good. We don't have any weird stuff going on. We'll figure out what to do for this button focus state. Maybe I can just see what we did for some of these. Okay, so it looks like we did some neat stuff there. So let's just grab that one maybe. So where's the old X? It's probably this one. So let's grab that close button. No, it's up here. All right, so we'll stick that there. I think you're gonna see that things are kind of aligned a little bit weird now. See how it's like moved in from the side because there's like some padding on the thing. So we do this trick where anytime we sort of add like sort of make-believe padding to something, padding that's only there for like the hover or focus styles, we always try to compensate for it in the parent so that it is still visually aligned where you'd expect. So if we get rid of that with margin, then now you can see the X on its own looks like it's in the right spot. All right, so why don't we I'm trying to think what to do. We could do the transitions on this. So you can see on these ones, we do make it like full width, but we kind of have it grow in. So I guess we'll probably like use that same style. So let's just do it like from scratch. The way that I author these components is using Alpine JS, and then we have a sort of a transformation layer where before things get published, it gets extracted into just like HTML comments that explain everything, so that when people try to use it with React or Vue, they don't have to rip out all this JavaScript from something they don't even use. So what I normally do is I just have like x data equals, we'll say like menu open, or maybe this will be like mobile menu open, false. And here we'll say X transition, enter. Let's just see what transitions we used originally. So you can see like this is what kind of what it gets converted to, right? So we can say like this. We'll do a transition, transform, origin, top right. We'll grab these styles. This is going to be X transition, enter from. X transition, enter end. It's going to be opacity 100, scale 100. And then we can kind of just edit these a little bit for the leave states. So leaving, we leave a little bit faster with a slightly different easing curve. And then we fade out and scale down. And then we also add like an X show here to mobile menu open. And I think if we did this right, we should, I'm going to find index, X transition, enter, start. I'm forgetting my Alpine syntax here. Okay, so now we should get like something once I add a click handler to this. At click equals mobile menu open equals true. Do the same thing for this one. Set it to false. Oops. Let's make sure we add a type button to this. If I just use Alpine's transitions, then it won't extract the Tailwind classes to show people who don't use Alpine. So, all right, why does this feel so sluggish? That's actually all right. Okay, so I think what we need to do is grab this button style and use it here too. Because we want like the good focus styles. Oh, what did I just do? What's the size of this? It's acting like things got a little bit bigger. So this is 40. And this is 32. Yeah, that's fair. So let's add a negative my2 on this and see if that solves our problem. Yeah. Okay, so now it'll just like act as if it's not there. And now we can open that. Okay, so that's pretty good. All right, I'm gonna turn off my space here. And yeah, so let's look at the next state. So it looks like for the small screens, which is 640, Steve just kept the design the same, so we don't have to make any changes there. But let's just see like what this looks like. I mean, I guess this is fine. I don't know if we want these links to be full width. Looking at like at 640, I wonder if there's anything we could have done differently here. Like maybe something that we could do is put these into 2 columns as well, you know, to use the space a little bit better. This will be something I just had to kind of get Steve's input on though. The only difference I think is you can see probably we've got a little bit different padding. So 24 on the edges now, which is kind of a common pattern that we use. We jump up to px6 on this screen size. So we keep it a little tighter on mobile, and then once the screen starts to get a bit bigger, we add some more space. Okay, so next we've got this size. So this is where things kind of get interesting. All right, so let's think this through. So we're gonna have another div here for like the desktop version, and I guess we'll do like a nav inside of it. We could just make this the nav, I guess. Depends if you consider these to be part of the nav links or if these are the nav links. So we'll just try this for now, and we'll drop in a few links. So we got solutions. Oh, is Steve present? Oh, I saw him. Oh, there he is. And yep, so let's do some stuff here. Text base, sledding 6, font. Oh, why has he got the line height of 20 here? That won't matter, so I'm just going to stick with our usual line height. Then we're going to get this chevron. I think I have those as just let's see, SM chevron down? Yeah, okay. Chevron down, and these are the 20 pixel icons. All right, so we're also going to want to hide this, right? So we'll go MD, hidden. We don't want this to show up. This will have to be hidden MD block. It'll probably end up being flex, actually, but okay, so we got that. So this will be probably like an inline flex items center. And it looks like this is maybe a slightly different color. So this is gray 400. So let's go text gray 400. And what has Steve got for the gap here? Now it's 13, which is probably like when you account for the fact that this, oh yeah, okay, so this does have the stuff around it. 8, perfect. So here we can just say item center space x2. Did that actually add anything? Oh, this, if we want this to work, this is going to need a span. All right, that's fine. I can accept that. All right, so let's duplicate this for pricing. And this actually isn't going to be a link now that I think about it. So we'll figure that out. It's probably going to be a button because it actually opens a menu. But we'll adjust that when we actually add the menu, I think. So we do docs. And then more is going to be the same as solutions. Hey. And if we look at the space here, we've got 40 pixels between, so we can go space x10, flex. Okay. And we're going to want these to be aligned all the way to the edge here. So I think we're going to switch this to be MD justify start. And now the gap that we've got from here to the logo is 40. So we're also going to do MD space X10. And then this stuff is going to be nested inside this flex container. So let's do MD flex, MD item center, MD justify between. And we'll probably do MD flex 1 so that it stretches all the way. And then we can stick like a div over here and put in a link for sign in. And then we'll grab this like sign up button tweak it a little bit to fit here. So this will be just inline flex now. This will be inline flex now. We don't need any widths, which means we don't really need justify center, but like there's no harm in it. Oh, this BGR thing, that was from when I was just showing you that plugin. So let's get rid of that. Okay, right, so let's see. It's probably the 40 pixels again. Oh, 32. All right, so we'll do class equals flex space x8. Flex item center space x8. Okay. And then there's going to be some gap between this stuff too, likely, like some minimum gap that doesn't really matter because you're not going to see it, right? Because it changes. But let's just try and account for it somehow ourselves here. So maybe we'll just do MD space x10, and then at least we can like look at the dev tools and kind of get a sense. Okay, so this is sort of the gap that we would be using, which I think you could probably argue that maybe we need to go a little bit more than that, so that if these were next to each other, there'd still be enough of a gap that these looked grouped and these look grouped. Okay, so one thing I noticed is that the height of the navbar changes when this button appears because the button is taller than the logo. So let's double check that against Steve's design. He has a gap of 24 above the button and 25 above that. So he's probably doing the same thing, or maybe not. So this is a Y offset of 28 and a height of 40. Y offset of 25 and a height of 40. Let's look at this again and think about this. So if he's just doing 24 based on the height of the button is the tallest element. It's like I got a height of 42. So if we did want to do this with padding, that would be the right way to do it. Another way to think about it is like, so the button's got a height of 42, it's got 24, so we got 42 plus 24 plus 24, that's 90. That's not a Tailwind utility, I don't think. Yeah, that's 22 and a half, right? So we could either give it a fixed height of 24 or a fixed height of 20, and then everything would always kind of stay in the same place. That's like another approach, but I think we'll just roll with the padding based solution and just take a look here. Yeah, it looks like we're already doing it the way that kind of Steve intended. 24. Oh, does this logo get bigger? 40. 32 to 40. Okay, so that's another thing to consider. Is that an MD? Or no, wait, this is SM. SMH10. Still gets slightly bigger when the button shows up, but I think I'm good with that. All right, so, and then I think like nothing changes really in terms of the other stuff. See, yeah, this is all kind of like the same. All right, so nothing changes except for he's got like I guess this is probably a hover state for these links, just changing the text color. So let's add that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we've got these like flyout menus. So one thing I'm wondering is, does this flyout menu even fit on medium screens where like this first shows up? Looks like it does. I wonder if he designed Okay, so we can make it fit, but we'll have to get Yeah, I do have two speaker icons. You want to see what they are? By the way, this is pretty cool. So first one is regular one, right? I don't know what this is doing. This is just some smart Ecamm Live thing, whatever. The cool thing is this app Sound Source by Rogue Amoeba, which gives you like per app control. So every app that I'm using, I can sort of control its output relative to everything else, which is really sweet. And it also lets me use the volume keys to control my audio interface's output level, which it doesn't support natively. At one point I removed this one from the menu bar and was just using this, but this is a little bit slower to just like switch to a device. Like here I can just click, drag, and like let go. Here it's like click, click, click. So I kept this one here just for quickly switching output devices. I also have an Alfred workflow where I can switch audio output devices by just choosing between them, but for some reason it's like really slow to pull up the list. So I don't really have the patience for that. Okay, so I have a call that I gotta do in 30 minutes, but I think we could probably get like the basics of this in place. So I think this is gonna be where things get pretty interesting. But we can do it. So got this thing. Let's make this solutions thing a button. And we'll do the same thing for this more thing. And then we have to figure out how we're going to show this thing. So since we need this to be positioned kind of relative to this in some sensible way, it's going to be really hard to get these aligned perfectly, because if this text was longer, you'd need this to be in a different spot, right? So it's almost like we want to make the menu like relative to the chevron, which sounds like insanity to me. Yeah, that's going to be tough. Let's start kind of doing the easy thing, which is to just like build a menu here. Give this a class of relative, this a class of absolute, and now everything should be kind of back to normal, but there's like this menu thing showing up underneath, right? So we'll just try and get this working this way. This is going to be very hard to do in a kind of very universal way. That's not just like left however many stupid pixels the length of this text is. But let's figure it out. So we've got a menu. It's going to be positioned absolute. It's got a width of 768. We might find ourselves needing to add new classes to Tailwind to support this. But we'll see. It wouldn't be as bad if we were using like Popper JS or something. But I digress. So I'm going to have this absolute container, and this is going to be just for positioning. I'm just going to think of it as like where things go. And then what we put inside of it is going to be a whole separate thing. So let's take this. This is 8. So it's going to be rounded. LG. Shadow LG. Then this is going to be the shadow XS. And And then we're going to have a container inside of it. So we got 32. And then what's the distance from... this is a hard distance to measure because of that chevron thing. We'll just measure with a little box here. 32. Okay, so it's got square padding. 32 by 32. So we're going to have a P8 container. BG white on this, but I think the bottom is gray, so since the bottom is gray, we will just do overflow hidden on this. And we'll make this BG white. Let's just see, like, are we starting to get like a menu, sort of? Yeah. Okay, so we got a bit of a menu. Okay, now I'm going to do something controversial, which is to duplicate a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to take all these links. I'm going to copy them. And I'm going to just paste them into this menu. Now, a lot of people ask me all the time with the Tailwind UI components and just with how I build stuff in general, like, why are you duplicating this when that's the same content that was on the mobile menu? Shouldn't you be using media queries and fancy responsive design stuff to reuse all that HTML and have it magically show up in the same place? And you can do that sometimes. But to me, the amount of trouble that you have to go through to make that work involves writing some extremely convoluted and complex HTML that's very sort of intimidating to make changes to, because everything is like very linked together. And I find that very quickly you'll also run into situations where it just proves to be impossible because the markup structure needs to be so different and you have to duplicate it anyways. So my personal preference is not to try too hard to reuse markup when like things are in totally different places for totally different reasons. I would rather duplicate it, stick this in its own little container. And one of the cool benefits of that is now if this flyout menu is its own sort of contained component, say we wanted to swap it out for a different flyout menu like this one, we could swap out the flyout menu without changing anything on mobile. Like we could still have this view on mobile and then have this flyout menu on desktop, and we could easily, like Lego pieces, sort of build that stuff together. Whereas if they're all like intermingled as this gross HTML monstrosity, then that's totally off the table. So yeah, I like to duplicate pretty liberally. Okay, so we're going to have like a 2-column grid here. We're going to have some, like, here's another example, right? We got all this paragraph text. We could just like conditionally hide that, blah, 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 but that's, no thank you. So let's grab these. We'll wrap these in a p tag. We'll put another p tag here. Let's just do like some lorem ipsum to start. Probably it can be even shorter text than that. All right, so you can see what I was kind of talking about before, the fear that I had of needing to add some new width utilities. We'll figure that out though. I think we can probably make it work. All right, so if we, oops, what, did I just do something? Let's grab this content. Oops. We'll cut that. We'll put it here just for the title. We'll pull this down. We'll just get rid of this. Actually, we'll use that for spacing. And then on this p tag, I'm guessing this is like slightly smaller text. What was this? This is 16. This is 14. So we'll go text SM, letting 5, text gray 500. Yeah, we're working on a thing for styling like Markdown in Tailwind eventually. There's this Tailwind CSS typography plugin. This is not even remotely ready. This is kind of my thing here. This is like example content and what it kind of looks like by default. All you have to do is just add like one class. Now again, this isn't even published on NPM. There's no versions. It's totally unusable. But I am kind of just experimenting and exploring ways to make this good. I'm kind of dog fooding it on our documentation pages. So these documentation pages are all built that way. So this is just using a single class that I stuck on the parent, and then everything else kind of styles itself fairly sensibly. So we'll probably put something out like that. The hard part is coming up with the API for customizing it that's reasonable. That's not just like writing CSS. But we'll get that figured out. I don't think the two menus have any real accessibility consequences. As long as one of them is hidden, the screen readers won't announce things that have display none on them. But I'll double check that against... we have a friend of ours who has been doing some accessibility consulting for us, kind of helping us out. So basically when I publish new components, he kind of goes through them, audits them, lets me know if I've messed anything up, and we fix it and put it out there. So we're always trying to make that stuff as good as possible. And it's nice because I'm learning a lot too, because I'm not an expert there either. All right, so let's see. We got a 4 pixel gap. So let's go up to this empty class attribute. We'll do space Y1. And now we got to get all this stuff like working. So this is what I'm going to do to start, just as like a really kind of gross hack here. We're just going to add an inline style to get this rendering correctly. And then I will figure out the right tailwindy way to do this kind of after the fact. But at least we can kind of get something going here. Okay, so let's take this. We'll make this a grid. Grid calls to 32. So that's going to be row gap 8. Well, Steve actually, you can see he's actually thought about this. What a gentleman. Looks like we can just use gap 8. Okay, now we need to get these icons in the right spot. So we will grab all these. Basically, we can get rid of this item center and make it a item start. And then we might have to do a little bit of finagling to get things right, but these are probably already aligned. Yeah, they are. So done deal. So that's looking pretty good. When is it a good idea to use grid instead of flex? I use grids for grids and flex for everything else, basically. If I'm making something that literally is a grid, grid is really good for that, especially the way it's set up in Tailwind. You can do some much crazier, fancier stuff with grid if you're just using raw CSS. What we expose through Tailwind is like fairly simplified. But for just like straight up grids, I think CSS grid is great. If you are doing something like this, where you got like something over here, then something over here, and they're different widths and stuff, I find Flexbox works a little bit nicer for that. You don't have things can get weird otherwise, especially with utilities. It's hard to have like columns that are different widths and stuff. If you have things that need to wrap, like say you have a list of tags and they need to wrap, Flexbox is definitely the right solution for that, because in CSS Grid, the widest column determines the width of everything inside of it. So if you want things to wrap but have kind of different widths, you can't really do that with CSS Grid. So they're both really great tools and very complementary. We're hoping to do Figma file at some point, but so much of the original work that we did was very sloppy, and we did a lot of the design in the browser. So Steve has been, I mean, our workflow has never been to create really polished Figma files. So Steve is trying to come up with some ideas for how to do that, and we'll see. We'd like to get something out there because it's a common request, but can't promise when. Okay, so let's just get some of this content in here. I'm going to put periods at the end. Hopefully this content isn't stolen from someone else's website. Oops. Kind of got these in a funky order. Where's the security one? Oh yeah. Like you'd see like Steve's kind of got down and down, whereas ours go left, right, left, right, left, right. We could just change the order to match that. Okay. All right, so let's just do this bottom chunk. So where are those chunks? It's going to be a div after this one. Looks like we got 24 on vertical and 48 on sides. So PY6, PX8. Is that what I saw? Yeah. This is going to be BG gray. I guess guessing this is 50. Yep, 50. This will be like a big link. Enterprise. Power your entire team with even more advanced tools. Okay, so this is, let's do, we'll do block on this, but it probably doesn't need to be full width, and maybe it should be like separate links that just go to the same place, but let's just get it kind of looking right and then think about that. And we'll put the badge, I guess, next to that too. I'll just have to go find one. If I try to use the max width screen MD, the problem is because it's nested in something else to get like the relative positioning correct, it will get all kind of janky. So I'll show you what I mean. If you see here, the suggestion is to do something like max width. Let's see. I think we could just use one of these. Like, what's 768 divided by 4 or divided by 16? 48. So do we have a 48 rem? Yeah, I would use this one probably. And what you'll see is like it still doesn't care because it's limited to the width of the parent element. That's what it's kind of based on. So even if we say like width full, now it's like going to be the full width of the parent element, which is, you know, like it's nested in this div. So it's trying to force itself to fit in that div. I think there's like a way to do, I don't think it'll work for this. You could do stuff like width max content. But the problem with this is I wonder if there's a way to use width max content, but also like allow these to wrap. I don't know. Like, what does width min content do? Like, that's a disaster. Yeah, these are kind of newer CSS features that I haven't played with much. Fit content, max content, and min content. They just don't really care. Yeah, so this one is tough. I think to make this work, we'd want to do like 768 divided by 4 is like 192, which is a size that doesn't exist in Tailwind. Ooh, width max content with max width utilities. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, you might be onto something. You clever bastard. Yeah, that is a good hack. That is a really good hack. Huh. So what we need is a width max content in Tailwind. Yeah. Okay. God. Okay. I knew I liked to do these streams for a reason. We got a fucking genius in the chat. Thank you. All right. That's great. That's a good trick. So let's grab a badge here. What do we got for the font size here? 12. So this is one of the small badges. The funny thing is, I think it's not quite this badge. Let's grab this indigo one and just see. Guess we'll put that there and just see what happens. It's not going to be right, but maybe I should put it not in the completely wrong spot. I'm going to make this a div. Screw y'all. All right. So what's the height of this? It says 20. And in Steve's design here, he's kind of got a 24 pixel one. So what has he got to do that? He's got a line height of 20, then like a padding of 2. So, oh, sorry, line height of 20, padding of 2 pixels per side. So yeah, so I guess if we just did letting 5 on this, that would pretty much do that. That looks good. New. And he's got that centered. The distance from the badge to the thing is 12. So let's do the old spanaroo here. Oh, you can't put a P in an A tag? That's interesting. Or I can't put an A. You sure? Can a P tag and an A tag? Jesus. All right, let's look at the old cache. In HTML4, you could not. In HTML5, A elements may contain P elements, but browsers are a bit flaky, and you have to set the A to display block. Yeah, okay, so this is fine. We're allowed to do it. Get with the times. Let's add a little more padding here. Okay, so we'll do flex item center on this. And what's the width of this? 51. I'm not saying that we need to match it exactly, but I'd like to be in the right ballpark. Okay, so that's close. What did we say the gap was? 12? 3? let's move this stuff here. Now, since this has a line height on it, we should probably make this not a span. Probably we should, whatever. That's all gonna work. Flex will solve our problems. Okay, now what do we got for the gap from here to here? 4, height of 24. So yeah, okay, so that's nice and simple. Space Y1. Okay. Looking good. So this is pretty good. This we might not want to do. Like we might want to we might want to long-term do the old style equals width max content sort of deal, right? If this existed in Tailwind. And now in theory, you can see that the link is only as wide as it needs to be. So now like this part isn't like clickable, but all this is. Again, maybe this should be a link and this should be a link separately so that like even this area doesn't have to be clickable. But I'm gonna come back to this and make this work when we actually have some real stuff. So I have to do a call in 5 minutes, but let's see if we can this arrow thing, I think this is going to be a tomorrow problem. But we can probably bump this down a little bit and kind of offset it to the left. Kind of show you some tricks for that. So where is our thing here? Where are you? Okay, so basically this thing, we want to say absolute. If we look at how much space is between this and this is what, 28-ish? I mean, I think that exists, right? That's like 7. So we could say like top 7. That's probably a thing. Oh, that didn't. Oh, you know why? Because that's like top from the whole thing. From the top of that element. So we would actually want to do MT7. That seems like really far away. That seemed like about right. I guess it is right. Just because we don't have that like arrow. Okay. And then what do we got like from the edges here? We've got doot to, it's got a width of 23, so call that 24. So we could say like negative ML6. All right, and that kind of gets us in like the right ballpark for that. Now, getting this arrow again in that exact right spot is going to be a very borderline impossible thing to solve in a generic way. But yeah, why don't we do another stream tomorrow, and I'll do like this other one. Were we even building like the right one? Yeah, okay. I'll do this other one, which is kind of simpler. I'll curse Steve for doing this freaking lined up arrow thing all the time, because that is nightmare material. And yeah, we'll do another one probably like tomorrow morning or something. I'll just like get right back into this. Cool. All right. Well, I gotta go. So hopefully that was fun. Always love kind of hacking on these streams. Glad we came up with some cool new tricks. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you want to get notifications every time I do these streams. I'll announce them on Twitter otherwise too. And I'll be back with another one tomorrow with any luck. All right. See you, folks.